Hi and welcome to Swedish Plantguys. This video is for all you beginners, you newbies with plants. Perhaps you've bought your first plant and wonder, what now? This is for you. However, I think everyone needs to hear this. So in this video we have 5 tips for you that will make your plants thrive. Easy tips, just follow our instructions. So number 1, you have bought your first plant and it's time to bring your plant home. What should you do when you arrive in your home? Well, the first thing we want you to do is that you will place this plant somewhere where it gets a lot of indirect sunlight. Meaning, not direct sunlight hitting the leaves of the plant, but it needs a lot of indirect sunlight. So as much light as you can give it without giving it direct sunlight. And you will place this plant there for approximately 1 month. After that period, you can remove it from that placement and place it where you actually want it to be. Now, why are we doing this? Well, when you get a new plant to your home, know that it is usually quite stressed. The reason is simple. This has been standing at the growers, getting everything it wants. Perfect humidity, perfect light, perfect temperature, nutrients. It's really thriving. Then it gets transported to usually a wholesaler, where it can be from 1 day up to a month before it gets transported again to the shop. At the shop, it will not get anything as close to perfect as at the growers. It will be packed with a lot of different plants. The lighting is bad, the humidity is bad. It can be a little bit colder or a little bit hotter than it wants. You understand what I mean? And then you arrive, you buy the plant and you take it home. You transport it again. So the plant is quite stressed. So by placing it somewhere where we try and give it as much of those perfect conditions as possible, lots of light, and then we just let it sit there for 1 month, it will not be stressed anymore. And then you can move it to wherever you want to have the plant. This will help you to get it to thrive. Of course, the final placement for your plant is depending on what type of a plant you have. Is it a plant that needs a lot of light, or can it be placed somewhere a little bit darker? So you have to do your due diligence on that type of plant. So number 2. How much water should you give your plant? That's actually the most common question we get. How much water should I give my plant? Well, it's actually not about that. And we'll get into that a little bit later. It's actually about when should you water your plant. This is what you do. You use your finger to feel the soil of the plant. And depending on how big of a pot you have, you feel down 1 to 2 inches down into the soil here to see if it's wet, moist, or dry. So when you feel down into the soil here, if you feel that it is a little bit moist or wet, as in this case here, you can see that I have some remnants of the soil here. It's because it's a little bit moist still. That means it's not time to give this plant any water. So you wait. You wait maybe 1 day or 2 days, or maybe depending on what type of a plant you have and depending on where it sits in your room, if it's light or dark, just keep feeling down into the soil. When you feel that 1 to 2 inches down into the soil is dry, then it's time to water again. So it's not about how much water you should give, and it's not how often you should give. It's rather when you should give the water. And the answer is when the topsoil is dry. But you could have a plant that needs quite a lot of water. Some type of indoor plants drinks a lot of water and actually doesn't like to be a little bit dry. If you know that you have that type of a plant, then instead of feeling down into the soil, just feel on top of the soil like this. When the top soil, without touching down into it, when the top soil is dry, then you water again. Number 3, do not add fertilizer to your new plant until it's showing you that it's feeling well. And how do we know that it's feeling well? Well, it's going to show you by either growing, meaning shooting out new leaves or new shoots from the soil, or it starts, for instance, to flower. It's showing you that it's feeling well. Then you can start adding fertilizer when you water your plants. Now, why shouldn't we add fertilizer instantly when you get it to our home? Well, this is because there is a misconception here. Fertilizer is not food for the plant. The plant actually creates its own food through something called photosynthesis. Look at fertilizer more like vitamins for us humans, meaning that it's something that we need, but it's not food. The vitamins for our bodies help different processes within our bodies to function. Fertilizer is the exact same thing for the plant. It helps different processes within the cells, within the structures of the plant to work better. But if those structures or processes are failing, it will not help by adding more fertilizer. The plant needs to be feeling well, and usually it's something else that's making it feel unhealthy. It's not a lack of nutrients. Usually it's not getting enough light, or it's getting too much light, or it's getting too much water or not enough water. These are the big things, or it could also be pests. None of this will actually help by adding fertilizer. And know that when you add fertilizer to your water and then water your plants, it's actually in salt form. Meaning that if you add fertilizer to your soil, to your root system, and it's not feeling well, it won't be able to use that nutrients. And that nutrients will be sitting there. That fertilizer will be sitting in the soil and actually making things worse. So you need to know that the plant is feeling well so that it can use that nutrients to thrive. So the rule here is that we only add fertilizer when the plant is feeling well. However, if your plant is not showing you anything, it just sits there looking like it has for 3 to 4 months, then you can add some fertilizer that might speed up all of those processes to make it start growing again. And as a final thing, usually we recommend that you give fertilizer when the plant is active. And usually the plant is active in springtime and in autumn. So that's when we go in and fertilize. Not in the middle of summer, because it's usually extremely hot with a very high humidity. So it cannot use the fertilizer. It's only using all the water to regulate the heat inside of the plant. So we're only fertilizing in spring and autumn when the plant is feeling well. Number 4, we recommend that you always use drainage holes. Now, if you use a self-watering system, then you do not have drainage holes in the same way. But for all other type of planting, use drainage holes. And what I mean by that is that you have these holes in the bottom of the pot. And this connects to when we water. As I said before, because if you have drainage holes in the pot, it doesn't matter how much you water, because you will water on top of the soil. Some of that will trickle down, some of it will be absorbed by the soil, and the excess water will go down to the bottom of the pot, and we can remove that. I will show you this. I have here what most people have in their homes, meaning you have an inner pot, a plastic inner pot like this, with drainage holes in the bottom of the pot. And then you have an exterior pot or an outer pot like this, usually something that fits well with the interior design of your home. So what you want to do is that you will take the water, you will water on top of the soil here, and you will continue to water. How much you water is actually not an issue here, since you have the drainage holes in the bottom. So make sure that you really moisten and wetten the soil as much as you can. And what will happen is that the water will go through and end up in the bottom of the outer pot here. So what we want to do now is that we want to remove this excess water here. All of the root ball has water, and that is enough. So we take away the excess water, and then we wait, as we said before, until the top soil dries before we water again. So use drainage holes. Number 5, always use good soil when you repot your plants. Now we recommend that you do not do the first repot for at least a year. As we said before, we want the plant to settle in your home for at least a month before you move it somewhere else. And then you do the first repot after approximately 1 year. Now, there is of course an exception to this. If you get a plant home that has really bad soil, you notice that it doesn't absorb water, for instance, or the other way around, it absorbs a lot of water, and you can see that the roots are actually getting damaged from that, then you need to do a repot. But in all other cases, you do the first repot after approximately 1 year. And then we always use good soil. What I mean by good soil is that you can use a standard planting soil, but make sure that you do not buy the cheapest variety, because the cheap soil usually doesn't have a lot of organic material in it, which means that it doesn't have a lot of nutrients in it. And also it means that it will not hold on to and release the fertilizer you will be giving your plant. So you need a good standard planting soil that also has good drainage. Now, a good standard planting soil has one huge disadvantage, and that is that it usually absorbs and holds on to too much water, meaning that the roots could potentially get harmed. So it's our experience that if you mix a good standard planting soil like I have right here with something that adds good drainage, then you will have the perfect mix for almost all types of indoor tropical plants. So what can you use to mix up your standard planting soil to get that perfect drainage? Well, you could use pumice, for instance. Pumice is actually a volcanic material. You could use leca pebbles like I have here. This is in most parts of the world quite inexpensive, so it's a good thing. And you could also use perlite. So how much should you use in your mixture? Well, I have here approximately 70 to 80% of standard good planting soil and 20 to 30% of, in this case, pumice. If you mix this together and you use that to repot your plants will thrive. So after you've made that initial repot after approximately a year, then you only have to do repots every 2 to 3, maybe 4 years, depending on which type of a plant and how massive the root system is for your plant. So it is our experience of taking care of indoor plants for over 25 years that if you follow these 5 simple steps, this will help your new plant to thrive. Now, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. That really helps our channel a lot. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do. You can hit the bell as well so you get a notification every time we put up something new. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram where you can get sneak previews on upcoming videos and sometimes a little bit more. Now until next time, hej då!